It's the Penguins and the Columbus Blue Jackets, a game that took place on January 17th, 2026. The final showdown between the two squads. How did it all pan out? Welcome to Penguins postgame. Let's get rolling. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fans' perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. The Pittsburgh Penguins and the Columbus Blue Jackets did battle on Saturday, January 17th, 2026. These two teams have done battle under a new head coach. Well, okay, Dan Muse is not considered a new head coach, but that's besides the point. Welcome in, Penguins fans. Welcome in, Blue Jacket fans. Of course, you're probably tuning into this after the Blue Jackets have taken on the Ottawa Senators, but we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins battling the Seattle Kraken later in our show, as those were the two teams that both these two teams, Columbus and Pittsburgh, went head-to-head with tonight at the time of our recording and on Martin Luther King night in Seattle last night. But we're talking about the game from Saturday. This marks the conclusion, yes, you heard me, conclusion of the 2025-2026 regular season series between Pittsburgh and Columbus, which, much like the game in October, finished in a shootout. Speaking of the season series in general, before we touch on who the new head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets is, and that was the coach the Penguins did battle against on Saturday, let's give you a brief summary of Penguins Jackets in a nutshell, which saw the Penguins and Dan Muse face off against Dean Everson and the Columbus Blue Jackets for most of this series. It began on October 25th, 2025, when the Columbus Blue Jackets defeated the Pittsburgh Penguins in a shootout by a final score of 5-4. Now that same final score would be the ultimate final score of the game on January 4th, 2026, where the Pittsburgh Penguins would beat the Columbus Blue Jackets in Nationwide Arena in overtime by the final score of 5-4. The final score in overtime that the Penguins won on November 28, 2025, also when Dean Everson was still the head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets, was 4-3 in favor of the Pittsburgh Penguins. But on Saturday, January 17th, 2026, that same final score, 4-3, became a shootout final score, and we're going to find out about that and how it became what it was in just a few moments. Before we do, now that we have gotten you through the season series leading up to Rick Bowness becoming the head coach, which he was for this game in particular, let's dive into the records for both head coaches heading into this game. Reminder, records after this game for the Columbus Blue Jackets were 22-19-7, and the Pittsburgh Penguins were 22-14-11. That was their record going into their matchup against the Seattle Kraken on Martin Luther King Day. For the Columbus Blue Jackets, that is their record going into the game they are currently playing against the Ottawa Senators. But more on that later. The records going into this matchup on Saturday for both squads was for Dan Muse's Pittsburgh Penguins. They were 22-14-10, and the Columbus Blue Jackets were coming into Pittsburgh with a record 21, 19, and 7. They were currently on a 3-game winning streak after the firing of Dean Everson and a 2-game winning streak under new head coach bench boss Rick Bowness. Let's dive into our matchup between the pipes. First, the bench goalies in this one. Columbus would bench in backup number 73 over on the Pittsburgh side of the ice. Sitting on the bench if needed was number 74, Stuart Skinner. So what was our matchup between the pipes? Well, that was the matchup of 37 Artur Shilovs versus number 90 Elvis Mers Lincoln. So it was number 37 versus number 90 in goal. The officiating crew for this game, we'll talk about the time of the start and the end later in the show and before the show is up. But our officiating crew, wearing the numbers 2, 30, 56, and 50. The referees wearing the number 2 and number 30 were John McIsaac and Kendrick Nicholson, as we call them in the men's game, linesmen. Those people wearing the numbers 56 and number 50, Julien Fournier and Scott Charret. Apologies, official Scott, if I pronounced your last name wrong. Just in case I did, apologies in advance. Same thing for the goaltenders. If I pronounced the name wrong, I apologize. Before we go to break number 1, actually let's go ahead and go take our first break of the show. When we come back, we'll dive into the scoring, penalties from the first period all the way to the third period as well, and into the shootout. Then we'll take another break, get into the shootout results, game totals, stars of the game, the 3 stars of the game to the exact, and we're going to go to a Saturday roundup. So be sure to stick with us for that. With that said, the Penguins post-game show, Penguins and the Jackets, in what we're calling our Turn Back the Clock Penguins post-game show, will continue in just a moment.
Don't go anywhere. There's more great conversations and content right around the corner. Sports for Beginners will be right back in a moment.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Hey everyone, it's Scott McGregor here. Join me weekly right here on Sports for Beginners for weekly episodes, your weekly dive in around sports news surrounding the Toronto Blue Jays, Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Raptors, and more. We'll have guests on a week-to-week basis, and so much more. Lots of great conversations coming. Be sure to subscribe to our show so you never miss an episode. And with that, make sure to like our Facebook page, Sports for Beginners Podcast 87. Just type that into your browser, and you should be sure to find our Facebook page. We'll also provide bonus content. It's going to be a dull moment you'll never want to miss. Check out Sports for Beginners with me weekly for daily news around the sports league, surrounding my favorite sports teams and yours, and so much more. Until then, we'll see you at action time.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Now, let's take you back to the action. To the rink and field we go. We find Scott McGregor.
Welcome back to Penguins Postgame. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Penguins and the Jackets, the topic of conversation. Previously, we talked about our head coaching matchup, which is Dan Muse versus Rick Bowness. Again, Ian Everson had been relieved of duties before this game began, which was our final showdown between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Dan Muse, however, remained the head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins since the season series began. We also revealed to you our officiating crew as well as our matchup in goal of each team going in to this showdown. The one thing we did not reveal to you was our start time, but we'll get there when we're through with our breakdown. Speaking of which, let's get right to it, shall we? I think we shall. We start with the Columbus Blue Jackets opening the scoring as former Penguin Zachary Aston Reese opens the scoring with his first goal of the season. Zach Werenski. Sorry, apologies, Zach, if I pronounced the name wrong. The last name, that is. With his 34th assist of the season. And Brendan G, just apology there for a pronunciation issue. I wanted to go with Brandon G just in case I did pronounce the last name wrong, just as a precaution. His 4th assist of the season. Penguins trail the Jackets 1-0, just 2 minutes and 42 seconds in. It wasn't until the 6-minute 14-second mark that our first penalty occurred. And it was the only penalty that occurred in the first period of play, which went to Zachary Aston Reese, a former Pittsburgh Penguin in his own right. He has been with the Penguins before. The call on the ice was a 2-minute minor for high sticking at 6 minutes and 14 seconds. At this time, the Penguins still trail the Columbus Blue Jackets 1-0. But they get the game even at 9 minutes and 59 seconds as Connor Clifton scores his first goal of the regular season and first goal as a Pittsburgh Penguin to tie the game. On the assist, Thomas Novak, also known as Tommy Novak, his 16th assist of the season at 9 minutes and 59 seconds. The Pittsburgh Penguins have evened the score at 1-1. Penguins won. Blue Jackets won, but the Penguins weren't done there. Despite staying out of the penalty box throughout the first period of play, they score late in the first period to take a 2-1 lead over Columbus, with Ricard Raquel picking up his 7th goal of the season. Captain of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Sidney Crosby, picking up assist number 27 on the season, as the Penguins enter the end of the first period of play with a 2-1 lead at 17 minutes and 52 seconds. After the first 20 minutes of play, it's the Penguins outshooting Columbus 10-4 for the game and after one period of play. They were outshot 13-8 in the second period after that period came to a close. And for the game, however, despite Pittsburgh being outshot 13-8, the Penguins were leading by a shot on goal at the end of 40 minutes of play, 18-17. Here's how the second period went down. Leading off with Columbus taking an early penalty. Ivan Provorov, a 2-minute minor for interference. 2 minutes and 3 seconds into the second period of play. At 8 minutes and 43 seconds, the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Pittsburgh Penguins would receive a penalty. The same call, but on different players on each side, which would go to, on the Penguin side, number 28, Parker Witherspoon, at 8 minutes and 43 seconds, 2 minutes for slashing. And for the Columbus Blue Jackets, Zach Werenski is going to get the boot here, 2 minutes for slashing at 8 minutes 43 seconds. Rewind the clock back a bit. Penguins did not score in the second period of play, but the Blue Jackets did. We rewind back to 7 minutes and 32 seconds. Rewind, where number 86, Kirill Marchenko, scores his 18th goal of the season. It was all by himself, unassisted, and that quickly tied the game up at 2-2. It was 2-1 Penguins at the end of one period of play. Now we're tied 2-2. Later in the period, the Pittsburgh Penguins take the final two penalties of the period, with Blake Lizotte going to the box for high sticking at 14 minutes and 15 seconds. Just a 2-minute penalty for high sticking for Blake Lizotte, but that's okay. Next up to take the penalty, this was when it was 3-2, by the way, in favor of Columbus. We'll get to the goal in a second. Another rewind, but before we rewind, we go to the final minute of the second period, where Brett Kulak would be caught for a 2-minute hooking penalty at 19 and 21 seconds. Before that penalty took place, at the 17-minute 38-second mark, former Penguin Danton Heinen gets the puck past Artur Shilovs to give Columbus the 3 for his second goal of the regular season. Eric Goodbranson picking up his first assist of the season. At 17 minutes 38 seconds, Columbus has taken the lead, 3-2. That is where the score would be at the end of two periods of play, where the Pittsburgh Penguins would be outshooting the Blue Jackets 8-17, despite being outshot by the Jackets in the second period. 8. On to the third and final period we go. Adam Fantilli takes the only penalty of the period, coming in at 12 minutes and 11 seconds. Adam Fantilli getting called for a 2-minute holding penalty at 12 minutes and 12 seconds in the third. Late in the third, very late in the third, it is the captain, Sidney Crosby, and the trio of 87, 58, and 71 collide for the game-tying goal to send us to overtime. For Crosby, it's his 26th goal of the season. For Christopher Letang, who got the primary assist, it's assist number 22 on the season for Letang. And for Evgeny Malkin, it's assist number 25 for Evgeny Malkin this season. Time of the goal, 18 minutes, 59 seconds after 3 periods of play. Pittsburgh outshooting Columbus 27-24 after regulation. That would not be the final shots on goal, by the way, because we would go to overtime. But the Penguins do outshoot the Jackets 9-7 after 3 periods of play. And in that third period alone, it was 9-7. Penguins outshot the Blue Jackets in the overtime period, where no goal was scored and no penalties were recorded. The Penguins outshot the Jackets 6-2, bringing the final total for the Columbus Blue Jackets to 26. And for the Pittsburgh Penguins, their final shots on goal tally was 33. Off we go to the shootout, which is where we will take the second commercial break, I should say, of our show. When we get back, we will reveal to you how the shootout panned out for Pittsburgh and for Columbus. So be sure to stick with us. But before we go to the break, as we will get to the results after the break, shooting in the shootout for the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Columbus Blue Jackets. For the Penguins, they would go with Ricard Raquel, number 67, number 87, Sidney Crosby, number 59, Igor Chinikov, and Sidney Crosby, Ricard Raquel, and Brian Rust for the Penguins, Kent Johnson, Adam Fantilli, Kirill Marchenko, and Charlie Coyle for the Columbus Blue Jackets. The results of the shootout, final game totals, 3 stars of the contest, Saturday roundup when we return to Penguins postgame. Folks, be sure to stick with me.
Don't go anywhere. There's more great conversations and content right around the corner. Sports for Beginners will be right back in a moment.
Hello? How are you, my friend? Why? What's the matter? Why feeling bored and lonely? Look at me. I am always happy. The only reason? I can tell you, it's because I listen to CNT Radio. All the best shows you can think of. The Melting Pot, the Cosmopolitan Culture Club, and the Song Bank. There are also many more new shows to come. Please make sure to visit her website at http://sienna-wordpress.com/sienna-radio. Oh, now I can hear you more cheerful. CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time.
Hi, Scott. It's Ali here. I just wanted to mention that I'm really enjoying the show and I'm really enjoying what you're putting together. And I wanted to just say I'm enjoying being a part of it as well. So please keep up the phenomenal work and make sure you guys keep this podcast going because it really suits you well.
I wonder if I could make it. It's almost getting to 8 o'clock p.m. and I am still a few more steps away from home to get to my computer to listen to CNT Radio's Cosmopolitan Culture Club. The best of the best music from around the world. Can't wait. I think I made it. CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time.
Now, let's take you back to the action. To the rink and field we go. We find Scott McGregor.
Welcome back to Penguins Postgame, Penguins fans and Jackets fans. It is almost time for our 3 stars of the game. and it is almost time to reveal to you the other stats from Penguins versus Blue Jackets on January 17th, 2026. But before we get there, I want to remind you that we will also be doing a Saturday roundup once we get through the 3 stars of the game. Game totals to follow shortly after that. And just before we can get to the 3 stars of the game and the game totals before we go to our Saturday roundup, we got to find out how the Penguins and the Blue Jackets fared in the shootout. Now remember, after overtime and the third period, which is ultimately where the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Columbus Blue Jackets would have seen a winner in regulation or in overtime. The third period was where it could have ended 3-2 Jackets, but instead Crosby has late heroics in the third to send the game to overtime, and we could have had heroics in overtime, but we have to settle for a shootout. Here we go with our shootout overview. We've actually done the shootout overview. Let's go to the shootout results. Starting off with, in the top of the first, in this 4-round shootout, Rickard Rakell. He would get credited for no shot as he failed his shot attempt on Elvis Merzlikins. Elvis did not need to make a stop as Rickard Rakell missed the net and missed Elvis Merzlikins, so Elvis was not able to make a save on this attempt from Rickard Rakell. The next to shoot would be Kent Johnson in the bottom of the first as the Penguins started things off as the home team. He would score on the backhand past Artur Shilov's 1-0 Columbus here in the shootout. Next to shoot for the Penguins, Sidney Crosby. Crosby wrist shot saved by Elvis Merzlikins, and Columbus stays in front 1-0 in the shootout. Next to shoot for them is Adam Fantilli. Shot saved by Artur Shilov. And instead of 2-0, we go still 1-0 Jackets in the shootout. And we go from the top and bottom of the second to the top of the third. In the top of the third, Igor Chinikov, the next to shoot for Pittsburgh. He scores on the wrist shot as he beats his former teammate Elvis Merzlikins. We are tied, 1 goal apiece. Goal by Kent Johnson for the Columbus Blue Jackets, and goal for Pittsburgh by Igor Chinikov. To the bottom of the third we go. Karel Marchenko stopped by Artur Shilovs on his shot, and we remain tied at a goal apiece in the shootout. Brian Rust, the next to shoot for Pittsburgh. If he can score, the Penguins can end the shootout on a save from Artur Shilovs. If he doesn't, the Blue Jackets can end the shootout with a goal from Charlie Coyle, who would be the next to shoot after Brian Rust. Shot from Brian Rust is stopped by Elvis Merzlikins. So now the Penguins need to send this into a 5th round of the shootout, and they need Artur Shilovs to stop Charlie Coyle. But Charlie Coyle wrist shot beats Artur Shilovs to complete the shootout, and his goal would be credited as the game-winning shootout goal as the Pittsburgh Penguins fall in the shootout 2-1. Charlie Coyle, Kent Johnson, the goal scorers in the shootout for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Igor Chinikov, the goal scorer for Pittsburgh in the shootout. Time now for your 3 stars of the game. They are brought to you by on the Penguins Radio Network and TV network, as well as the Columbus Blue Jackets TV and radio network, its respective sponsor. If you would like to get in on the action on Sports for Beginners, you can do so by sending an email to sportsforbeginnerspodcast80 or by connecting on Discord. Maybe leave a comment in the YouTube comments below. You could even do so with a WhatsApp or a Discord message. Probably better to do that during the game because that way it's going on. And this is already a few days since the game went final. And the Penguins and the Blue Jackets have already now played Ottawa, and Seattle since then. But with that being said, let's get to our 3 stars of the Saturday game. Your 3rd star went to Blue Jackets goaltender Elvis Mers-Lincolns, had a save percentage of .909, a goals against average of 2.77. He was your 3rd star. Your 2nd star went to the Penguins captain, who had a 2-point night, including a goal and an assist. And your 1st star, a 1-point night, including a goal and no assists, went to the former Penguin, Danton Heinen. So your 3 stars were Danton Heinen, Sidney Crosby, and Elvis Mers-Lincoln. Penguins fire back in the 3rd, but the Jackets overcome the Penguins in the shootout, and they recover for their 4th straight win and 3rd straight win under new head coach Rick Bowness. They beat the Penguins 4-3 in the shootout, and now it's time for our game totals. Our Saturday roundup, play of the game, coming up shortly after that if we have time. But definitely our Saturday roundup is coming up, so be sure to stick with us for that. Continuing on in the game stats, however, as we mentioned before, Penguins outshot the Columbus Blue Jackets 26. Both of these teams winning the face-offs. Pittsburgh won 36 of 62. Columbus winning 26 of 62. Columbus just about 42% of the face-offs won. Pittsburgh just about 58% of the face-offs won in this one. Both penalty kills went perfect. Pittsburgh 2 for 2. Columbus 3 for 3. Power plays, Pittsburgh 0 for 3. Columbus 0 for 2 as a result of the penalty kills taking over there. Speaking of penalties, the penalty minutes for Columbus was 8 minutes at the end of the game. Pittsburgh ended with 6 minutes in the box. They were out-hit by Columbus 2017. Also, Columbus had the edge in blocked shots with 24 to Pittsburgh's 14. Pittsburgh with 14 giveaways in this game. Columbus with 1 less giveaway than Pittsburgh with 13 for the game. Columbus had more takeaways with 10, and the Penguins only had 3 takeaways, which will round out our game stats. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for our Saturday roundup, so let's get to it. Besides the Penguins losing 4-3 in the shootout, the Toronto Maple Leafs defeated the Winnipeg Jets 4-3 in overtime. The New York Rangers defeated the Philadelphia Flyers 6-3 in regulation. The Seattle Kraken, who played the Penguins on Monday night, last night, lost 6-3 to the Utah Mammoth on Saturday. The Minnesota Wild knocked off the Buffalo Sabres 5-4 in overtime. The Calgary Flames picked up a 4-2 victory over the New York Islanders in regulation. 6-5 the final in overtime between the Canadiens and the Senators. Montreal with 6, Ottawa with 5. The Carolina Hurricanes defeated the New Jersey Devils 4-1. Washington beats Falls 5-2 to the Florida Panthers. I was thinking football at that time. Scott, focus. Anywho, what else? Oh yes, 5-2 the final between the Bruins and the Blackhawks. Bruins beating the Blackhawks. The Golden Knights went to town on the Nashville Predators, beating the Preds 7-2. The Edmonton Oilers shut out the Vancouver Canucks. And the other overtime final was the Anaheim Ducks defeating the Los Angeles Kings 2-1 in overtime. All right, folks, we're coming up on the end of our show here. So when we come back to Penguins postgame, it's time for our play of the game. We will also get to the of the game. We call it our player of the game segment. We call it the shake of the game. Our game puck of the game segment will follow shortly after that. And in between the shake of the game and the game puck of the game, we will set the scene for who's next for Columbus, who's next for Pittsburgh. In what we normally do as the next 5, we're going to do the next 6. And those come your way in between the shake of the game puck of the game, right after we get back with the play of the game, which comes your way when we return to Penguins postgame. Our turn back the clock game between the Penguins and the Jackets continues shortly. Stick with us.
Don't go anywhere. There's more great conversations and content right around the corner. Sports for Beginners will be right back in a moment.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Now, let's take you back to the action. To the rink and field we go. We find Scott McGregor.
We continue on Penguins postgame, Penguins and the Columbus Blue Jackets in our turn back the clock game. We turned the clock back to January 17th. 2026, the Penguins and the Jackets, the topic of conversation. Rick Bowness versus Dan Muse. As we can see, the final score was 4-3 in favor of the Columbus Blue Jackets. They even up the season series, which has finaled in a tie for 2025-2026 with shootout victories of 5-4 and 4-3 in Pittsburgh in favor of the Columbus Blue Jackets, of 4-3 on November 28th in overtime in favor of the Penguins, and 5-4 in favor of the Penguins in overtime on January 4th. Keeping it rolling here on the show. Now that we've revisited where the season series was at, let's get to our play of the game, brought to you by on the Penguins radio network as well as the TV network. Same thing for Columbus, its respective sponsor. If you would like to sponsor any of our segments here on Penguins Postgame, the door is open to you. Send an email to sportsforbeginners podcast8231@gmail.com. With that said, we'll get to how you can get in on the action, especially the play of the game and the 3 stars of the game momentarily, which you can also do on Discord and WhatsApp. But first, let's get to the play of the game. If we had a guest on our show, which we don't, but if we did, they would be given the floor to give us the play of the game. But since we do not, on solo shows like this one and previous ones I have done in the past, the play of the game comes courtesy of the host, Scott McGregor, which is myself. And you know, I got to agree with the old 2-9er Phil Borg on the Crosby goal. I mean, if you're going to try to give yourself a chance to win a hockey game, even with Artur Shilovs in net, the least you could do is try to send this game not necessarily to a shootout, but at least to overtime. And that's exactly what Sid, Gino, and Tanger did. Gino passes it to Tanger. Crosby gets the pass from Letang. It goes behind Elvis Mers-Lincolns, while the Penguins, by the way, are playing 6-on-5, if I may add, because the net was empty for Pittsburgh. And the next thing we know, we are heading to overtime. That is good enough for my play of the game. The goal that brought us to overtime and later a shootout, as neither player on the ice on Pittsburgh or Columbus was able to send this game to an end in overtime. All right, before we jump to the shake of the game, let's visit next up for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Tonight, the Blue Jackets, as we record this, we're playing against the Ottawa Senators in the first of a 5-game homestand, and they ultimately lost 4-1. They will continue to play at home for the next 4 days as they host the Dallas Stars on Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. Then the Tampa Bay Lightning come to town for a night game on Saturday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. The LA Kings are in town on Monday, January 26, 2026 at 7 p.m. Eastern. The Kings and the Los Angeles Kings and the Columbus Blue Jackets doing battle on Monday night at 7 p.m. Then next Wednesday, January 28, 2026, the Philadelphia Flyers will be in town to close out that 5-game, I should say, homestand. Puck drops at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And we're adding in a 6th game because the Pittsburgh Penguins and Columbus Blue Jackets, as we talk to you, have already battled the Seattle Kraken and, of course, the Ottawa Senators. So wrapping it up here with Columbus, they will play in Chicago to kick off a 3-game road trip with the puck dropping from the Windy City between Chicago and Columbus at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. All right. Unfortunately, folks, we don't have time for the game puck of the game, but we're going to make do with it. We're going to make do. Here we go. First, let's look at Pittsburgh's upcoming schedule. They continue their current 4-game homestand on Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. But first, on Monday, which was yesterday, they battled the Seattle Kraken and defeated the Kraken to get back into the win column by a final score of 6-3. So they are off to a good start on the road. They will play Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver, with Calgary and Edmonton back-to-back, starting tomorrow night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Then on Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, Crosby and the crew battle Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers and old friend Tristan Jarry. On Sunday, they will take on the Vancouver Canucks at 6 p.m. Eastern from BC before they come home for a 3-game homestand, kicking off with the Chicago Blackhawks coming into town on Thursday, January 29th, 2026, and the puck set to drop at 7 p.m. Eastern. All right, a rapid fire of the shake of the game to wrap it up here, as we are due for time here on our show. Getting the shake of the game for the Columbus Blue Jackets is puck stopper Elvis Merzlikins. I thought he had a pretty good game against Pittsburgh, despite giving up the 3 goals he did. Of course, the same could be said for Artur Shilovs. He gave up 3 goals, but he also gave up the game winner in the shootout, scored by Charlie Coyle, who, speaking of which, will wind up with our surprise Columbus Blue Jackets game puck of the game. So we do the shake of the game and the game puck of the game at the same time. For Columbus, it went to Elvis Merzlikins for the shake of the game, and Charlie Coyle getting it for the game puck of the game for Columbus. As for Pittsburgh, the shake of the game goes to Connor Clifton, who scored one of Pittsburgh's 3 goals. Crosby also with a goal, as is Rickard Rakell for the game. But the game puck of the game belongs to the goaltender, Artur Shilovs. And that will just about do it here for us today on our Turn Back the Clock episode. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We do invite you to join us on the night the Penguins play the Oilers ahead of that game, as we will break down the action from Calgary, Alberta between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Calgary Flames at the Scotiabank Saddledome, which will feature the 23, 14, and 11 Penguins against the 21, 23, and 4 Calgary Flames. So be sure you check that out. That will be our next Penguins postgame show. And then on Friday, January 23rd, ahead of the weekend, we got some Penguins hockey for you, recapping the Pittsburgh Penguins versus the Edmonton Oilers. Hope you can join us for those shows as we look forward to getting ready for Vancouver and Pittsburgh. Once again, the final score of the final game of 2025-2026 for Columbus and Pittsburgh. Blue Jackets win it in the shootout 4-3, and I would use Mikey's line as he always does. The ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has just left the building, but for tonight, I'm going to use my spin, which is this, on the iconic line. Ladies and gentlemen, Justin Brazeau has just left the building. I'll talk to you after the Penguins and the Flames, Penguins fans. So until then, this is Scott McGregor for Penguins Postgame signing off, saying, in the Turn Back the Clock game show recap, Penguins fall 4-3 in the shootout to the Columbus Blue Jackets. The season series ends in a tie, despite the Columbus Blue Jackets switching head coaches before the finale, which took place on Saturday. Have a great night, everybody, depending on when you are tuning into this, and I'll catch up with you after the Penguins and Flames. But until then, always remember, Penguins fans, we cheer loud and proud for our black and gold, saying, let's go Pens. Good night. Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.